like to walk us through what we have in mind. So we will start with Guy introducing us to regenerative destination and trends, and followed by a piece of content from John Lambeth, who is a president and the CEO at Civitas. He will not be joining us live today. It's super early where he's located, so we have a beautiful section that is pre-recorded. And for the last part of this webinar, we have Melissa Baird, who is our communications director at the GDS-Movement, and she will explore the world of destination storytelling. We will have time for the Q&A, so you're welcome to post your questions on the chat, and Guy will address those as we go along. And with that final notes, I'm handing over back to you, Guy, and enjoy.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Yeah, great stuff. So let's just kind of have a little think about regenerative destination management. And as you know, regeneration is a theme that we started on at the beginning, at the end of 2019, so before COVID, and it's more relevant now. So we're campaigning for this shift of thinking from sustainability to regeneration. I've just noticed I spelt it wrong. So we're saying that because we think that sustaining the systems, the processes that got us into the mess that we are in the world is not the right type of thinking. We need new systems, new way of thinking. So we need to regenerate, restore and rejuvenate our planet, our communities, our industry, and of course, the economies around us. So that is what we're campaigning for, new types of thinking. And that's what regeneration is really, really about. If you think of the actual biological meaning of regeneration, it is the process of renewal, restoration, and regrowth. Okay, it's that process that allows the starfish and his, I'm not sure what they call fingers or legs, to regrow, when you cut it off. Okay, so there are organisms like the liver in our body that once you cut it in half, the liver will regrow. And it adapts. So this is really what we're proposing, is this kind of mindset of change. And the way we love regeneration is because it's very positive and it's optimistic in its outlook. It's really focused on better. It's circular. It takes all of the concepts of circularity that come from nature. How we look at a tree and how the tree grows and then breaks down, and then from when it breaks down it creates soil and that regrows another tree, or as the tree creates fruit that insects consume, and then it's circular. It's helping each other. It's restorative. Nature is restorative, right? Regeneration is about that, whether it's restoring the planet or restoring ourselves and our own energies. Regeneration is inclusive. It's all about how we include everyone and we don't leave anyone behind in the work that we do. And we know that was an issue in some of the communities where tourism has been very successful. How it's, how, for example, it's increased house pricing in the cities of some of our cities. Regeneration is collaborative. It only works through collaboration. But it's new forms of collaboration with the competitors, collaborations with our residents, collaborations with our clients. Regeneration is innovative. It learns a lot from nature. So here is a burr. I'm not sure if anyone knows what this plant catalyzed in terms of innovation in clothing. But this burr was the idea that created Velcro, and how the burr sticks to clothes. Some very clever people saw this and thought, if we could copy that and reproduce that, we could use it on clothes. Hence how Velcro came out. That's called biomimicry. And so regeneration is a lot about that, learning from nature and using nature to stimulate innovation. Regeneration is bold. It's about, really, really thinking out of the box. It's about how do we take every building and make it a living farm. It's transformative. It's not about how can we have 10% less waste or 10% renewable energy. It's about how do we have 150% of our energy from renewables, so then we can give 50% away to somewhere else to help recover other communities. It's how do we, have 100% of our waste recycled and then, reuse waste in another way. It's disruptive. Regeneration is about asking the tough questions. It's about looking at the elephant in the room. So, all of us have shadows and elephants in the room. Some of us live on islands where the only way to get to our island is by flying. So that's an elephant in the room. It's a big challenge that we have to think through. Others have other issues, right? So we have to face those issues and think how we move forward with them. Regeneration is about balance. It's about stopping, breathing, and making sure that we're balancing our work and our individual lives. It's also about balancing tourism and events in our destination so everyone benefits from it. And it's compassionate. It's about caring for each other and working through things. So if we do that right, then we have a unique opportunity. So tourism and events can be that catalyst of action, policy, and transformation that our cities need. So we can use tourism and events to accelerate a transition to a zero carbon community, to a circular economy, to restore biodiversity, to catalyze a food revolution, to build more inclusive local economies, and to really make amazing transformative visitor experiences that people leave our destinations different to when they have arrived. And that's what we are campaigning for, this regenerative revolution. And so the rest of the session today is really kind of building up on this. And so when we kind of now look at this, we're kind of really starting to play with this. What is the destination for regenerative destination management? And this is what we've got to today. And it may not be right, and we can invite others to contribute and help us with it. But we're saying that regenerative destination management is a balanced living systems approach to develop and manage a flourishing visitor economy. So it's learning from nature, it's balanced, it's systemic, which is a key word, it's systemic. We aim to use tourism and events to help improve environmental, social, and economic problems, right? We want to fix things using tourism. And it's about restoring and rejuvenating communities, their people and places, rather than degrading or merely sustaining conditions. It is radical, inspired by nature, inclusive, and circular by design. So that's where we're kind of there today. Kind of feel that the visitor's slightly missing from that, so we may need to add a line to this. So I welcome comments and input from any of you. Great. So that's the kind of introduction. So now I want to go to the next thing, right? We want to look at different strategies for regeneration. And I think one thing that we've not always been so brilliant at is really looking at different funding mechanisms. And through COVID and through the crisis, we saw that some destinations had really solid funding mechanisms, others didn't. So we've been looking at this, and in this process, we started work with different people. So we're working with Group Now with Peter and Sina in Europe, and in the States, we've worked with Group Miles and with Civitas. And so I'd like to, what I've done is invited John to give us a speech. So we ran this session yesterday afternoon in the States. And so I'm going to share his presentation with you. John is the guru, I think, the global guru on funding systems. He's an attorney, and his company, Civitas, has raised over $2 billion for DMOs. So some of us, I know, don't quite have $2 billion. So let's use this to catalyze some thoughts about how you could be maybe thinking into the future of what changes could happen and how you raise and use money. So my colleague Alexis facilitated that, so she's going to give the introduction to John.
Over to you.
Oh, thank you so much, Alexis. Thank you for that generous introduction. Yeah, we try to keep the attorney thing on the down low. So, but thank you so much. And thank you, Milda. Thank you for having me today. You know, we have been working for 25 years at raising money for DMOs, and we've been quite successful at it, raising over $2 billion for our clients. But it's so exciting today to not just be talking about our normal activities that we're raising money for, which are marketing and sales and events kinds of activities, but regenerative efforts, those things that add to sustainability and add to our destinations and make our destinations better places. So I'm really excited to be talking about that this morning. I did want to give a shout out to a few of my friends that have joined from the US. Sarah Tolliver from Visit Ogden, great to see you on here, as well as David Holder.
Okay.
Clarity of Place, and Greg Oates, great to see you as well. So thank you all for joining, and thank you for tuning in to this presentation. I'll tell you, it is quite timely that we're talking about this. I don't know if you all saw, there was an article in the New York Times this morning titled "Venice, Overwhelmed by Tourists, Tries Tracking Them," and talks all about the cameras that Venice has put up to track their visitors, and talks about the new gates that they're going to be installing. Obviously, this is an important topic, and all of those things, whether you're doing those kinds of activities or messaging to your visitors or doing activities that actually help build back your organization and your destination, those all cost money. So let's talk about how DMOs are funded. We've done a great deal of research into this topic, and we divide DMO funding into two buckets. First, the private bucket, and you all should be quite familiar with this, partnerships and membership. In this era of COVID and recovery, we've seen significant grants, all different kinds of grants, from the national level to the state level to the local level. Certainly event revenue and contract services. One you might not be as familiar with is licensing. Some DMOs are actually looking at some of the assets they have in their destinations and licensing those assets and using that as a revenue source. But let's talk for a minute about the public bucket. The money's coming from the public sector. And again, grants is on this list. Certainly since the pandemic, that has taken on a whole new level of funding for our DMOs. But we also have something we called untethered tax allocations. And I think this is but based on the Now Group's recent tax study that they conducted in Europe, basically this is the primary funding source for most DMOs in Europe, essentially allocations from a government that are not linked to anything else. They are simply an allocation for tourism promotion or perhaps for sustainability kinds of activities, but it's money just coming from the government on a discretionary basis. One step beyond that, and what we see in the US quite a bit, are something we call tethered tax allocations. That is tax allocations that are tied to a specific tax, in this case, bed taxes. The Now study told us that only on average about 8% of DMO funding in Europe comes from bed taxes. That's not the case in the US. It is closer to 75% of the funding is actually a tethered tax allocation that's tethered to a specific bed tax. It's linked to that bed tax. Some portion of that bed tax is allocated to the DMO. Then we've got tax increment financing, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on this today, but that's basically the concept of revenue sharing growth in some sort of tourism related tax, sharing that growth back with the DMO. So to say, this year our taxes were 100 million, next year when they're 120 million, we're going to take some share of that 20 million and specifically allocate it back to the DMO. So it gives you a very specific skin in the game, gives you a very specific percentage that you will get based on the growth that you're able to achieve. And these kinds of mechanisms are becoming more and more popular. But today I really want to focus on the last, and it is this concept of assessments. And assessments are different than taxes. And if we were all together, I would ask the group, what's the difference between an assessment and a tax? And hopefully I would get the answer back, which is an assessment is based on benefit. So when a government levies a tax, essentially they collect the money and they can spend it as they would like. But special benefit assessments require, by their legal underpinnings, that we show benefit back to the payer. So when we levy an assessment, and if the payers are the hotels or other tourism businesses, we must show benefit back to them for that money. And what does that do for us? That creates a very stable, reliable source of dedicated money that can't be diverted for any other purpose. So we like to think, when we think about funding, we think about sufficiency on the one hand, that is, do you have enough money to accomplish the objectives that you need to accomplish, whether that's marketing your destination or providing additional regenerative type of activities. And then we talk about stability. How stable is the money? Can the money be changed by one vote of a local government? Can money be changed by one vote of a national government? Can that money be diverted for other purposes? And so when it comes to both sufficiency and stability, a tourism improvement district answers both of those questions because it provides supplemental funding over and above what you get now, and it provides very stable funding that, because of its legal underpinnings, can't be diverted for other purposes. And so essentially, this is an assessment on hotels and maybe other tourism businesses. It's collected by the local government, and then it's managed by the DMO. Creates a level playing field. There are no free riders. It's transparent. It's reliable. The businesses do have the option of passing it through to the guests, and more we're seeing these funds used not only for marketing and promotions, but regenerative projects as well as capital improvement projects. So really, this is a different way of thinking. And I know that in so many respects, Europe is ahead of the US in your regenerative efforts and your sustainability efforts. I think we have a lot in the US to learn from Europe. I think when it comes to these tax policies, there may be some things that you all could do to improve your financial situation by thinking in a little bit different paradigm. And the old paradigm of a tax is government imposed, no defined term, no requirement of benefiting those that are paying. And if you think about the new paradigm of a TID, this has a very specific term and a plan associated with it. The private sector is involved and engaged in this activity. It has legal accountability to make sure the funding gets spent the way that it was designed to be spent. And finally, it can't be diverted because it's based on benefit back to those businesses. If we look at globally, the statistics for TID, we are just shy of 200. We're at 191. The most recent one was Boston, Massachusetts. By the way, for Boston, that took their annual funding budget for the DMO in Boston from $8 million from pre-COVID numbers, and their projection after COVID with their TID in place is a total budget of $38 million, a $30 million delta based on the TID. So you can see a game changer, 5X, a game changer for the revenue that the DMO is getting. About half of these districts are levied on a percentage basis, and about half are levied based on a fixed rate per occupied room per night. So $1, $2, $3, like that. So on the low end, they're raising in the smallest district, $10,000 a year, one hotel, very small district. On the high end, we have a statewide district in California that raises $120 million every single year for Visit California to do its activities across the state. We are in 18 states, and there are 3 of these districts in the UK as well. I wanted to mention we did for the first time in 2021, you know, there's so many terrible things that have come out of the pandemic. There's a few good things that have come out of it. Well, the National TID Summit is one of those things that I think is a great thing that came out of COVID. Basically, we hosted a national summit to talk about TIDs. We had 375 people participate from all over the world, from countries on several different continents. And we had a great discussion about how people were raising money, what they're doing with that money, and what they intend to do in the future. And we plan to do that again in next year in 2022. Recently, a new study came out that I wanted to share with all of you. Tourism Economics, who has been a tremendous leader in the destination space, doing analysis and looking at return on investment for particular programs, did an analysis of tourism improvement district destinations versus non-tourism improvement district destinations. And they looked at 100 destinations over a 30-year period of time. So this was a very large statistical analysis looking at those programs they were doing that specifically drove ROI. And they asked the question, is there any difference between TID destinations and non-TID destinations as it relates to performance in the hotel industry in particular? And no surprises here. We found that yes, it does. right? If we give all of you more funding and you're doing more marketing and more sales activities, you in fact can move the needle when it comes to activities, generating more visitors, generating more activity. And they found an increase of 2.1% in room demand and a lift of 4.5% on room revenue every year for those destinations that had TIDs. And it simply is more resources flowing into these sorts of programs. So that's a little bit of a diversion. That's on the economic side, not on the regenerative side. But I wanted to mention that to you. That's relatively new data, and I wanted to share it with all of you today. A couple of other concepts about TIDs. They're extremely good at building partnerships. When you bring the private sector to the table, when they are investing in your destination and investing in your DMO activities, it gives them a completely different role than just simply sitting on a board and spending government money. So typically in a TID destination, we're creating new nonprofit corporations with boards that are representative of not only the community, but of the stakeholders and businesses in the destination. There is a forum for those stakeholders to participate in a very active way on the disbursement of those funds. And many of you may have boards like this, but TIDs really energize these efforts and really energize the efforts of the private sector because they feel like they have greater, I'll use that term again, skin in the game for the activities that you're providing. The other thing that TIDs really have started to focus on, and it's really exciting to us, is to put money into sustainability efforts, put money into regenerative efforts. And so this is a great use of these kinds of funds, and it can be used to fund improvements. It could be used to upgrade trail activities. It could be used to upgrade other facilities that you have. It could be used for special incentives or community-based events. We're seeing more and more of this. And what we're finding now that we didn't find in the past is more of our clients are asking, how do we raise money to do these kinds of programs? And let me give you a couple of examples. First, Monterey, we put a district together here, wonderful destination in California, began way back in 2006. They charge assessments on hotels. They vary it based on whether it is a full service or limited service hotel, but it is based on a fixed rate per occupied room per night. It ranges from $1 to $2.50 per occupied room per night. It raises about $4 million a year. And one of the things that Monterey does with this money is spend it on a program called Sustainable Moments Initiative. It's really dedicated to the website and marketing efforts to educate visitors and talk to them about how they can be responsible visitors. I know this is a topic you all have heard of and seen. It really is a way to make sure that the visitors are well informed, because sustainability and regeneration is a culture in the Monterey community. This is extremely important to stakeholders, and they've said, we're going to take some of this dedicated funding that we have and put it in this direction. Another community I wanted to mention is Mammoth Lakes. And Mammoth Lakes began back in 2013. It actually not only assesses hotels, but it assesses restaurants, it assesses attractions, it assesses retail, all of that for the DMO. That $4.5 million comes back to the DMO. And one of the things they spend it on is regenerative efforts in Mammoth. And so again, this is a community that has a great focus on sustainability. And they've said, how can we encourage our visitors to be careful of our environment? And so they not only do that messaging, but they've also organized a cleanup event, New Trash Thursdays, essentially Thursday organizing the community and some of their visitors to go out and actually clean up trash in their destination. Some of you may be familiar with other kinds of events like this. One other that we thought was so interesting was this concept in the Faroe Islands called Closed for Maintenance. They would actually have times where their attractions would be closed, and the only way you could get into the attraction as a visitor was to sign up for maintenance duty. So if you come in, you can sign up for maintenance, you can then be in those attractions, you can give back as part of your travel, you can give back to the destination. And what a great idea this is for them, and what a wonderful thing for the destination. So that really concludes my affirmative presentation. There's so much more I could share with you, but I wanted to really pack it in. We are blessed to have just some wonderful clients, as you can see up on the screen here. And I feel very lucky to be involved with GDS and all of their good work. And I want to say thank you again for having me this morning.
Well, thank you, John.
Over to you.
That's, so yeah. Shame John can be with us, but I hope you picked up on his energy and also his expertise. It's pretty amazing when you think that John has set up 191 of these districts and over 300 types of tax districts. You know, it's, as he said, it's very much a US concept at the moment, but it's expanding. We're having conversations with quite a few different places around the world of how we could relook at this and create a regenerative investment district. That's the phrase I'm focused on and I would like to see. 4 in the UK already, so it is possible to do outside. So I'm interested. Who of you, just a quick show of hands from everyone, who of you has some type of hotel visitor tax? Yeah. Yeah. Great. Good stuff. Well, maybe you can, you know, put in the chat box if you've got one in where you are. There's none in Galway yet. That's funny. I was just thinking of you in Galway about that. So some of us got city taxes. Oh, yeah, Leuven, I know you've got one there. In Geneva, yeah. So John was talking a lot about the hotel taxes. He set up ones that work from and take a percentage of revenue from restaurants, from attractions. There's lots of different ways of doing this. It doesn't only have to be hotel taxes now. And I'm not sure how many of you looked at the research we did last year with Group Now. So we did something called Tourism Taxes by Design. And so we analysed all the European taxes. Spoke to many of you. Some of you were involved in this research. And we analysed the different mechanisms and then different ways how money can or should or is being ring-fenced to be allocated. So there's some interesting conclusions we come out of that for the future. John did a US report, and so we put together the US and the European knowledge together in something called Funding for Tomorrow, which we are recommending as the 10 global best practices. So I invite you to have a look at that because there's some really clever ways how things could move. And now we're taking this project forward into a new project with Peter and Sina and the Travel Foundation called Time for Democracy that looks more into resident engagement and how we create democratic DMOs, should we call them. So that launches, and I think some of you I can see are involved, Zurich, and some of you on this line. There's 16, 17 DMOs in that project at the moment, which will start this month. And that will touch on taxing but really how you spend tax money and the money you raise. And we'll also touch on this on our new white paper that will come out next year. So yeah, so let's move this forward, and let's now go to the next kind of part here. So I want to introduce you to Melissa. Some of you may know Melissa. Melissa is our chief storyteller. So she has 15 or more years in the communications and sustainability world. She's worked for Ogilvy Earth on sustainable brand communications for some of the biggest brands in the world. Worked for NGOs, worked in the climate space. And I've been working with her, I don't know when we started work. I think we started about 2014, wasn't it? Mel, when we said
2015.
15, was it? And we worked together to create and produce sustainable brands in South Africa. together in Cape Town, which was a great experience. So I would like to hand you over to a very special person. Melissa, the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. Gosh, you're reminding me of a story, and I'm delighted to see everyone today, and thank you so much for joining us. John's presentation was so inspiring, because who would have thought that tax could be so interesting? And I think we're starting to see that enlivening narratives can create a whole new opportunity. So let me begin and start to introduce you to the power of storytelling, and really what I think is about getting to the heart of sustainability. So once upon a time, those words can bring the most extraordinary opportunity for the mind to step into a new perspective. We wait, what's next? What's happening? So once upon a time, the whole world came to a complete standstill, and we were left with things that we would never, ever thought in our lifetimes we would have to encounter, which has prompted us to look at how we need to reconnect with each other. So the incredible book by Paul Hawken called Regeneration identifies some specific areas of this breakdown in human connection, and how the way that we start to heal not only our systems but ourselves is to look for those elements of connection, reciprocity, and how does this relate to nature. So we'll see that the natural systems, our relationship with the natural systems, have broken down entirely. We're profoundly disconnected from nature. And, you know, the statistics coming out of the WWF report, we're losing 150 acres of rainforest per minute. So just in the length of this conversation, that's how many thousands of acres have disappeared. These are things that we can no longer enable just to happen out there in the periphery. It affects all of us. We are all part of nature. And within that, we need to look at the new stories that we can tell. So the most marvelous thing about words is that they're actually the most regenerative resource that we have. We can tell a story over and over again. We can change a story. And everyone has a story, just as every destination does, and in particular, every sustainability strategy. So when we're looking at stories, we're looking at marketing. How do we do this? We think of target markets. Who are our target markets? And having worked in the marketing game for so long, it's, you know, it's B2C or consumer or only top level CEOs. But what about if you looked at your target as a human? And the way that we've started to identify the really top tips about storytelling, I'm starting to wonder if they're not also top tips to being a great human. But that for another point. In the next slide, I'd like to introduce you to a brand that has done something brilliant with the very first starting point, and that is called context. Patagonia is one of the world's most progressive brands. I think in the sustainable brands stable, they are truly one of the leaders, because they are very, very progressive in their messaging. They're bold, they're controversial, they go straight to the heart of the matter, yet they also manage to be inspiring. And in no way does the story they tell differ from the business model that they have. So there's true authenticity there. In the next slide, we'll see what we look at as the story hierarchy. And the story hierarchy has been really well used and well manipulated by brands right up until this point, playing on the most fundamental psychological urges that drive human beings. But if you look at the top section here, we're starting to move into a different era of ethics, of psychological well-being. And where does the story of sustainability link into that hierarchical notion of the story that matters the most? So in the next few slides, I'm going to take you through what we really believe the key points are, but by no means the only points. If you look at this sunflower and you look at what Guy said earlier about regenerative thinking and what regeneration really means, every single entity in nature brings this message to us, because every flower, every fruit has seeds, and these seeds enable the promise of another whole generation of beautiful things that spring from it. So how can we use stories in the same way? A good story is always retold. A good story is shared, and a good story makes headlines. So as we see in the next slide, we start with the real key, and that's making it local and authentic. This is what New Zealand has done so well. They've really drawn on the Maori first intelligence culture. They're looking at how to create authentic experiences, a real sense of belonging, and also enabling the reciprocity of the culture to mingle with the tourist experience to deliver outstanding experiences. What I love about the next example is that it is really involving everyone. This is a great story, and let it tell itself.
Jeg ved, at det, jeg laver, det er med til at give folk en helt fantastisk oplevelse.
Folk kommer, fordi de har godt humør, og fordi de synes, det er sjovt at være med til, og det er noget helt anderledes.
Når jeg står op om morgenen, så det jeg tænker på, det er helt sikkert at skulle ind og mødes med resten af gutterne.
Jeg tror måske, vi er mere engagerede og mere positivt indstillet, fordi vi er frivillige.
Vi har mere tendens til at hygge os, tror jeg.
Så der er altså liv og glade dage.
Før jeg blev frivillig, var jeg slet ikke klar over, at der var så meget, man kunne gå til, og så meget, man kunne lave, og så mange, der havde brug for folk til at lave et eller andet frivilligt arbejde.
Og taknemmeligheden, som man møder fra dem, man hjælper i dagligdagen, det kan være turister eller arrangører, og den energi, som vi har, smitter af på dem og omvendt.
Men den her kontakt, man får med vildt fremmede mennesker, som man ikke kender på forhånd, og man bare bliver kastet ind i potten sammen og bliver egentlig får til opgave og løfte den her organisme, den bærende energi. Det er helt sikkert den her samhørighed, man får i at være sammen.
Vi går jo ind og laver, nogle gange siger vi flødeskum, så det bliver lidt bedre og lidt sjovere og lidt rarere for eksempel. Og det hæver standarden for alle de ting, der sker rundt om.
De oplever en flok glade mennesker, der elsker det, de laver. Jeg synes jo, vi får en mere afslappet stemning og ved, hvad der skal til, for at de får en god oplevelse.
Så vi håber, at folk husker på Aarhus som et godt sted at komme, og så kommer de forhåbentlig igen.
I just love that so much. Not only would I like to go to Aarhus to learn how to sword fight, but look at what the comment was. The pillars are the cohesion we get by being together and a group of happy people. Was there a target market there? They were people. They were humans. They were engaging. They had purpose. They were contributing, and they were enabling an experience that would be second to none. This is another exceptional example. In Ljubljana, there was this need to bring the producers of food together with the people who were buying the food, the conference centers, the events. This initiative brought so many wonderful farmers together with their target market. And now this initiative has spread to schools and to hospitals, linking the supply chain, finding the heroes within the supply chain, and enabling them to participate in a much broader perspective. So we've got authenticity, we've got connection, we've got stories in action, but let us never forget how important data is. And in particular, when we're dealing with this tremendous plastic waste issue, which is going to actually continue, according to statistics, we need to bring home some uncomfortable truths to really, really motivate behavior change. There simply cannot be reasons for the use of single-use plastic anymore. And we really need to look at how we can create behavior change that is not only motivational, but that is long-lasting. And you'll certainly see in the next slide that how a picture can paint 1,000 words. Sorry, be the next one first, the living data. So this one really looks at the impact. You know, we might have data points saying to us, yes, millions of tons of plastic waste is in the ocean. But when you see this beautiful little creature that is loved by so many, an iconic species that they would call it, with his prehensile tail wrapped around an earbud. And this is just one small millimeter of ocean that the photographer was able to capture. So these are important balances in storytelling. Storytellers always have great problems to overcome. But let us look at the next slide and lighten the tone a little.
Hi, how are you guys doing? Good? Welcome to Granavat Bar. So here we introduce like the most popular drink in Iceland, called Granavat. Here we have like 4 types of Granavat from different places. This one is a Þvottahús Granavat, and this one we call like Garðslöngu Granavat, Bílskúr Granavat, and then also have from Baðvatns Granavat.
Okay.
Do you like to try some? Try.
Oh, try this one.
The Bílskúr one?
Okay.
Oh, that one is great. It's my favorite one.
Bílskúrs.
Baðvatns.
Yeah, that's a good one. Love it.
That's good.
Baðvatns.
That was the easiest one.
Good. Like the sound.
Like a flamingo for you. Funny touch?
Oh.
Voila. Voila.
Thank you. Like it.
So how do you like?
Good.
Yeah.
Very refreshing.
Refreshing?
Yes,
that's
so
true. That's true.
very good.
Yeah. And just let me know what you like on this one. If you see the difference.
I think the second one is my favorite. Does that like make sense?
This one. I think
This
the one
one?
your favorite. Well, they are different. They are.
You want to know the secret of this water? Why they are so popular?
I don't know.
So the most interesting thing about this everything is that's only tap water.
It's just tap water.
Tap water.
Tap water?
Tap water.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Why
This is tap water.
Tap water.
So the names make it sound very exotic.
Yes. So you can get tap water for free in Iceland everywhere.
That's great. Yeah.
So you don't need to buy water.
That's awesome.
So everywhere you go, you just can use our reusable bottle.
All right.
Right? Enjoy. Yes, and welcome to Iceland. And Granavat.
Þvottahús water.
Yes.
So laundry room tap water, doesn't that sound fantastic? Carrying on with the essence of humor, try this one.
Hey, Bob, how are you doing?
Hey, Roger, how are you?
Just relaxing in the Swiss Alps. Take a look.
Yeah, it's good. Good for you. Listen, About the Switzerland film you want me to do?
Yeah, did you see the boot film I sent you?
I'm watching it as we speak. I don't like it.
What?
Just look at where you are, Roger. I mean, you got your mountains, your skiing resorts, your charming little towns, your green valleys. There's no drama. No drama at all.
Seriously? But did you see the bits with the sunset?
Roger, from a certain type of actor, I need an edge, conflict, jeopardy. Switzerland is just too perfect.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. You guys are too nice. You should have said, fuck you.
Okay, listen. How about the two of us on this special mission? We ski down the slope.
What, skiing down the slope together?
We go even skydiving.
Come on.
Then we land on these fields and the cows are grassing.
Roger, I have to be honest with you. It's not happening.
Ah.
Sorry, Roger. Maybe call Hanks.
Who?
So what we've seen with those examples is that humor's got a wonderful way of not only breaking down barriers, but of also addressing uncomfortable truths and also creating opportunities for behavior change. The wonderful thing about the Swiss example was that not only did you get to see the magnificence of Switzerland in a sort of tongue-in-cheek way, but it was also able to challenge some of those concepts. And Switzerland has the most incredible sustainability strategy. It's really progressive. It's engaging the tourism and events value chain. It's really involving visitor perspective in how it shifts and makes adaptations to it. And it's also really going much deeper into the experience. So the opportunity is to connect these incredible strategies with the incredible initiatives that Switzerland has to offer. But very important in the storytelling narrative is to be aware of greenwashing and destination washing. We've started to see sustainability used more as an adjective than as an actual word that means what is happening. And we are looking at a whole pushback in the aviation industry, particularly, which will affect tourism and events, is how transparent the claims are around carbon offsetting, how are airlines using the possibility of false claims or no real proof. Destination greenwashing and greenwashing itself is a very, very tricky area. So it's always better to make promises or claims that are really relevant. There's a lot of creation of intention by 2025, by 2030. That might be a message in your business plan, but is it really a message that is helping change? And how do we look at that and how do we create that? So the next slide really looks at how hearts can be activated, which is a fundamental principle of good storytelling.
Listen, it's the 2020s, and freedom still can't be taken for granted in many places around the world. But for us lucky ones who think we have it, do we ever really stop and think what it actually consists of? Here in Helsinki, freedom is about becoming the best version of yourself without compromising on your well-being. We believe freedom is finding a healthy balance in life, getting support in reaching your dreams, accessing nature wherever and whenever, and loving whoever you love without holding back. But that's just our take on it. What does freedom mean to you? In this limited documentary series, we'll share stories of Helsinki freedoms as told by award-winning directors. Tune in now. The new city of the free welcomes you.
It's so powerful because it plays on a fundamental human truth, the desire for freedom, the desire to be able to do what one wants to do within an environment that is healthy, and very much plays to what Guy mentioned earlier about the need to find balance. So it's been really challenging to bring together so many thousand hours of understanding about storytelling, which is why I would love to invite you to join us for a masterclass in regenerative storytelling at the GDS Academy, where you will meet some incredible change makers who have activated the power of story to create campaigns and behavior change that will just blow your mind, as well as engage with some really great strategic tool sets that will help you really translate your great sustainability strategy into marvelous stories that can really bring people together, create new opportunities for innovation, for communion, and for reconnection. So I thank you, and I welcome any questions.
Thank you very much, Mel. That was amazing. Great examples, some powerful thoughts there of how we can think about the stories we tell and how we can tell even better ones. We don't have a lot of time, but I'd like to invite anyone to ask Melissa a question or maybe share an observation.
How did you feel? Give me a, that was cool, that was this, that was like, wow, you know, show me your faces.
Yeah, maybe turn your camera on so we can see you all.
Come on, let's see. Oh, yay, Bo, thank you. Heart. Oh, I got another heart from Veronica, thank you. Jolly good. Even some giggles would be good. Jolly good, Jess.
I mean, all of you have got amazing stories, so
yay, more
you
hearts.
share them. We love having stories.
Tell us a story.
One of the stories from Tatiana, obviously from Ljubljana, but you've all got stories, so please share them because we love to tell your stories too.
Yay. Good hearts.
Good.
I was just thinking about that, guy, that I never considered that the 7 tips for storytelling are actually 7 tips for being a cool human.
Yeah, I like that.
Be authentic and connect and reconnect and remember to laugh and all of those things.
But I think it's so important. We've worked with some of you and we come up with really great destination strategies, but that's just a first step, isn't it? It's how you tell the strategy, how you take people on your journey to implement it, to believe in it. And so I think that's really important. I'm not sure how many people saw that, but we have our resident futurist and resident comedian is Ed Gillespie. You may have seen him on the past. We brought him into the ECM conference a few weeks ago, or last week, wasn't it? And he did a session on comedy. I would send you the link on that because that is
brilliant
to die for.
And I mean, I was being polite. Believe me, Mr. Gillespie pulls no punches. And you can get to interact with him during the masterclass as well, which is a wonderful opportunity in itself.
Yeah, and in that masterclass, we're bringing in lots of cool stories as well from destinations. There's quite a few. I'm not sure if is there anyone here in the group speaking, but some of your destinations are speaking definitely in the masterclass and sharing. So that's great. So let's just hand over to Milda. To tell us a couple of things that we should know about. Back over to you, Milda.
Absolutely. Well, I do have one final note, and that is for those destinations who took part at the GDS-Movement's benchmarking process. So what we do ask you is to dedicate 10-15 minutes, if possible, to share your experience and feedback by answering the survey questions that we have prepared and developed together in collaboration with researchers at the University of Surrey. And we'll take your feedback into consideration, and we'll take actions to improve the process, but also it would benefit a lot for us improving not only the entire benchmarking process, but also hear back from you. I just shared the link on the chat.
Thank you, Milda, for reminding us of that. And just a reminder, the launch of the index and the awards is the 26th of October at ICA. So that's coming up. And I have one last final surprise. Today is a big day. It's a very important day. Today is World Poetry Day. And we thought, how could we not include a piece of poetry in today? And so, as well as having a chief storyteller, we have a chief poet. So I'd like to ask our chief poet, Melissa, to share a poem to close the day for us, please.
So I'm going to invite you to close your eyes. And I'm going to take you into shut down shimmer. Whilst we apocalypse silence, the frenzy continues. Manufacture, grab, take, buy, own, and then we throw it all away, despite aiming to protect our livelihoods, our perceptions. What begins always ends. There is a glitch in the matrix, a thinning of the veil. What came before the day after? Sitters in we have become, a new narrative whispers. Stop, listen, go within. That is where the kingdom lies. All you seekers of fame and glory, arisen sinners we have become, automatons limbering on dangerous pathways to success, to find at the end cash receipts, bills, and arguments. Stop. That is the call to action. Measure your days and ways in creative concepts, not social bleach ships. If there is a rainbow within this martial cloud, it will present itself when you have learned to listen to truths that are not broadcast, to the call of your inner, while the outer shatters, breaks. What is your beacon? What makes you simmer? What makes you shimmer?
Round of applause, please, for Mel. Thank you for writing such a beautiful piece. And it's the second time I've heard that. The first time was when it was really, really dark moments of lockdown. And now, as we have whispers and hope, although in South Africa, where Mel is, it's still quite difficult. But there is a day after. So thank you, Mel. And thank you, everyone. Wishing you a wonderful day. It was really, really nice to catch up with many of you again. And we will see each other, maybe some of you we will see each other at ICA. Some of you we will maybe see at IBTM. We'll be in touch regarding awards and indexes and things like that. So take care.